I'm Grace chatting, and I hope that you'll all enjoy my chat with Spoon. They learn how to drive, they learn how to play the guitar, play the drums, be musicians, be all kinds of things, but they never learn about relationships and what makes them work. So the Men That Don't End It was really something that couples could pick up and look at quickly and get some kind of a blueprint for how to make a relationship work. So what I wanted to do was to give some tips and things that would help to optimize the chances of these relationships lasting.
What top 3 tips could you offer?
One of the big things, one of the big secrets of a happy relationship is if a person gets happy with themselves, and from the place of being happy with yourself, you meet somebody else who is also happy. You're both just happy anyway, and they pool their happiness. They're not looking for each other to make them happy. And that's one of the big things, in my opinion. You know, before people go off on long trips or tours or times of separation, it's good to sit down with your partner and actually collaborate and negotiate, put everything on the table. What are the concerns? What are the worries? What are the anxieties? And discuss it. And how are you going to manage it and deal with it and address it? But also, how are you going to manage your contact? I mean, the technology is wonderful now. So it is possible for people to have regular face-to-face contact. And I would say make use of the technology. The other thing I would say, there's inside factors and there's outside factors. On the inside, we carry the people we love in our heart, you know? And it's good to tune into that and actually, when we're talking to them, be present. Talk about things that matter when you are having connection time. Talk about each other and not all the periphery of your lives. Actually really connect. The other thing actually depends on the level of commitment in the relationship. Some are more committed than others. You know, Spoon, I was thinking, it's not a one size fits all here, is it? They can have different priorities and different values. Are they going to be faithful or are they going to be unfaithful? Well, it depends on what agreements they have as a couple. That's why it's important to collaborate and negotiate. You know, if you don't mean offence, then perhaps the other person needs to not take offence. And those are the kind of little nitty-gritties that people have to work out in a relationship. It's not all honeymoon time. There's times that you have to talk about real life stuff, openly and honestly. That playing hard to get and all of that. And you know, that's okay for a while. But if it comes down to what do you want? What kind of relationship do you actually want?
It's part of the fun and the excitement and the anticipation and
yeah,
all of that stuff.
it is. But you know what? If you learn how to have a good relationship, if you actually learn the dynamics of what makes a relationship work, you can actually keep that kind of spark and interest and excitement and anticipation. You can actually keep that going in a relationship. It doesn't have to be just when you're meeting up with somebody for the first time, who incidentally might turn out to be a psychopath. Because actually, you see, what you're describing is what goes on inside you. It's not about the person, because you haven't even met them. You don't even know if you're going to like them. But you've got all this anticipation and excitement going on at what you hope to have. It's an inside job, most of this, Spoon.
How do you keep that going when you've been with someone 15, 20 years?
At a personal level, I had a first marriage of 18 years and it was a nightmare. It was a mistake from start to finish. We had no clue. We were not very grown up when we got married, and it ended badly and it was really painful. So I actually do have first-hand experience of how not to do it. And then I did spend 10 years as a single person, but kind of growing up, becoming a grown up, and learning about all these things. And then I met Alan, who I've been with now for 20 years, and we have a very conscious relationship.
What does that mean when you say you live conscious?
Okay. My first husband and I, we'd known each other since we were 11. So, like, you think, oh, well, we know each other. We didn't know each other. And on reflection on what I've learned and written about over the years is, first of all, people don't know themselves. Secondly, they don't know how to really know somebody else. And thirdly, they don't understand the dynamics of knowing how they are as a couple. And everybody is taking potluck and hoping for the best. And they make it up in their heads, like the anticipation of meeting somebody for a first date on Tinder. You just make it all up, what you hope. And that's how people get disillusioned, because they've created illusions. And then people fall short of what the illusion was, because they're only human beings. What does a conscious relationship mean? It means taking time to have a relationship with yourself, getting to know yourself. Carl Jung wrote extensively and talked extensively about psychological types. Some people are predominantly thinkers, some are feelers, some are sensation types, and some are intuitive. I mean, without us getting into a full lecture about that, it matters for people to know that there are different types, and it matters for them to know what type they are. And when they do meet up with somebody, even if they've met them on Tinder or wherever, it matters for them to know, well, what type of person is this? There's a book called The 5 Love Languages, written by a chap called Chapman, who's an anthropologist, and he studied thousands of people and came up with that human beings show and receive love in these 5 basic ways. So it's gifts, words, touch, time and attention, or acts of service. And I've seen relationships, and they can be heaven or hell, depending on whether people are getting their partner's language right. Each person's got a dominant one, and I'll just give you a little anecdote. No matter what I do, she's never satisfied. I've decorated the bedroom, I've decorated the kitchen, I've done it every way she wants, and she's still complaining. And she said, he never spends any time with me. He said, there, you see, she's never satisfied. And actually, it was simply a case of her love language was time and attention. She just wanted him to sit down and spend time with her and pay attention to her. She wasn't that bothered about all this stuff being done. Because his love language was acts of service, that if somebody did stuff for him, that meant they loved him. And so he was doing all this stuff to show his love for her, and she was just not speaking his language. And once they got clear, then they could show their love in a way that could be received by the other person. If people kind of get some of those basic things, it's like knowing what's the best strings for a guitar. Some of these relationship things, a bit of knowledge and a bit of skill, it can make the difference between it succeeding or failing, and people feeling hurt or not hurt. I think a romantic thing for musicians or any other people on the road or who are away from home, a lovely thing to do, a romantic thing to do, is before they go, to go and get a nice stack of nice cards, and leave them with a friend or a family member, or even a virtual assistant or somebody who will post those for you at different periods of time every few weeks and send them to your partner. Order some flowers or spa days or theatre tickets that will just be delivered every few weeks as a way of just showing showing love and thought. Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm not sending any theatre tickets if I'm not going with you.
Aha! I appreciate how thoughtful you are. I appreciate that you care for me. I appreciate that you spend time with me. I really appreciate. And if a couple can actually learn to express and receive appreciation from each other, it just makes them both feel good. So words are not just, oh, I love you, because words can come easy, but words of appreciation as well as love. There's a bit here about growing up as well.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Now, this is occurring a lot. And
Yeah.
this is outside of the romantic side of things. I'm glad that we're talking about this, because part of what I talk about in terms of how we build, in terms of our networking within the industry, you know, the music industry in particular is very much me, listen to my song, come to my gig, buy my record.
Yeah.
And well, why should I? Why should I spend my money doing that? Why are you entitled to all of this stuff because you can sing? So what? And it's where's the value? What value are you demonstrating? What are you doing for me? Where's the tangible energy, the thing that you're putting into my life, into my space, that should make me want to connect with you? But what are your thoughts about emotional intelligence and maintaining relationships generally?
I'm looking at myself. I had absolutely no emotional intelligence whatsoever. Growing up isn't something that automatically happens with age. Being able to identify your feelings, know where they came from, regulate them without suppressing them, but without hanging them in the wrong hooks. We all have different beginnings, different history. My personal beginning was of being born illegitimately in Catholic Ireland in the 1940s, which was not a good start. And so that kind of set me off with a fundamental imprint, if you like, of feeling, as the child that I was, rejected and abandoned. So in terms of relationships, I would go into relationships expecting to be rejected and abandoned, and would almost bring that about because it was a feeling I carried with me that I was familiar with, which is what happens with couples often. They finish up feeling hurt, rejected, abandoned, and they hang it on the most obvious hook. There's a whole lot more to it as well, you know.
I think that's a great place for us to end our conversation today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.